Hi, I'm Doyle, Southern Paranormal. This is Mark with Southern Paranormal.
Hello.
We are joined here with James. He is the house historian. He can tell you anything and everything about this house. We're kind of wrapping up for the night and had a lot of activity. What room was that we was in?
That was the children's playroom.
And that's usually the most active here, or what?
Actually, no. Well, people have said that is actually the most active room usually, so yeah.
So that's where we've been tonight. This is actually our second night here.
If you notice, I magnetized to that room. Like, I went straight to that room because it just felt like there was something there, like some kind of presence or something. So it was...
The first one you went for, huh?
Exactly, yeah. That's pretty much it was. I mean, I didn't feel anything else in any other room but that one. It's weird.
And what is it this time of year? Is the fall?
This is fall pilgrimage, yes. It's only
And-
2 weeks compared to the spring pilgrimage, which is the big one, and that runs for like 4. It seems to run forever when you're in the middle of it. It's only 4 weeks, I think.
But we're so glad to be able to help y'all out with it and everything tonight. And we had a good group come through.
30 people almost for the ghost tour. It was very fun.
And a big group last night and tonight. You know, we enjoyed meeting all of them, and I think that everyone had a great time at it. Can you tell us a little history and maybe a little bit of the hauntings of this place and where we're at now? You know.
Well, excuse me. Where we are now, we're actually in what was supposed to be the billiard room. But of course, Longwood is never finished. It's based on an 1852 design by Samuel Sloan. It's a design Sloan never expected anyone would want to build, but the Nuts had seen it and they liked it. And they got in contact with him and they decided to build it here in Natchez. They ended up making the 1852 design much larger. They added a floor to it and they increased the diameter somewhat, and they took away the minarets. Longwood, the design, of course, is far too complex for the builders of Natchez, so Sloan has to send down work crews. The problem is timing. They start in 1860, and in 18 months they've gotten the exterior pretty much done. But of course, if you start in 1860 and add 18 months, you're in late summer 1861, so the Civil War has also started. And not surprisingly, the Northern workers want to go home. And they leave, and the house is unfinished.
And that's where they just dropped all their tools and left.
Yeah, that's the story. They dropped all their tools. They really took the tools with them because these men were master craftsmen, and these were their personal tools. Of course, they took those with them.
So that's just a legend that
That's
it's
one
grown.
of the legends, yeah. It's, we have lots of building supplies left, but actual tools, almost none.
We saw a lot of the crates and everything.
Crates,
Things
yeah.
were shipped in.
That's some furniture that was shipped from one of the daughters to her elder sister. We have that piano came in is upstairs.
Yes.
We've got, the bathtub is just sitting there rusting away. And of course, a lot of the building materials for this house we know were taken during the Civil War. We know that the Union Army seized from this property 450,000 bricks and 30 wagon loads of lumber and other building supplies. And that's not including the 750,000 bricks that are in the walls right now. So they made a lot of bricks on this site to make this house.
How many levels would you say is in the building? I mean, there's a lot that's not finished that you took us up to yesterday.
Right. Well, there were going to be essentially 4 floors of living area. There was going to be this basement floor, which where we are in now, was never meant to be living area. This was going to be work or storage spaces. The main floor above us, that was primarily going to be for entertaining. What we would call the second floor.
Change angles, I'm sorry. Want to change angles real fast? Or?
Oh, we can just keep going. I mean, I'll just switch between cameras.
Okay. Second floor entertainment, sorry.
The floor above us is the primary floor. It's for entertainment. The formal dining room would have been there. Hollow Nuts library, the parlor, and of course the central rotunda. The floor above that would have been the main family bedrooms. Those would have been Dr. Nutt and his wife. And the 4 daughters would have been on that room. The boys would have been on the floor above. And above the boys' bedrooms, there's really just 2 walkways around the cupola. But it does give you 6 levels you can access altogether.
6, huh?
It's a 32,000 square foot house.
That's incredible. I mean, when you drive up, it's just phenomenal when you see it for the first time. It just,
I think the idea was not to have your typical Greek revival looking house, and they certainly succeeded.
And the driveway up to it, I mean, that's what blows you away.
Yeah, the driveway, is that just for privacy reasons they have it so long to get to here, or was it just that?
That's where the house was sited. This was never a plantation house, as people think. There was no agriculture done here. This was a suburban villa. Like a little bit outside of town, you have your nice parkland around it, and that is actually was meant for privacy and for the dramatic effect when you come around over the pond and you see the house rising from the top of the
I
hill.
don't think I ever asked you this question. What did he do for a living?
Holler Nut was a cotton planter.
It was a cotton plant. Okay, yeah, I think okay.
He had 5 plantations in Louisiana, 42,000 acres of land.
Wow.
So he made a lot of money.
He made a lot of money. Julia Nutt, after the Civil War, in her suit against the federal government, totaled the family's losses to be just over $3 million.
And at that time,
And that's $3 million, yes, that is $3 million just after the Civil War. That works out to be about $55 million today.
wow.
So, okay, you want to?
What's the next room that you can show us?
Let's go into what would have been what is the master bedroom
Okay.
right now.
Just keep them rolling.
So, but y'all have heard a lot of stories in
There
this
are
home.
lots of stories in this house, yes.
I think you said it's more vocal than it is.
At least in my experience, we hear things, obviously, this afternoon I was giving a tour and there were steps coming down, and there was someone walking down the steps, or at least it sounded like there was someone walking down the steps, and of course, no one was there. And we smell cigar smoke in some of the rooms.
I was about to ask you that. Do you guys smell smoke in this room?
Not in this room, more in that room over there. We'll go to that next.
That's interesting.
Of course, every so often you'll find books on the floor in the gift shop that, of course, weren't there.
Overnight and
Oh,
everything.
yeah, just
Do y'all have security cameras in here?
We have a lot of motion sensors, but we don't have security
Cameras.
cameras.
I think I'll be putting cameras in just to find out. You know?
All original furniture, original bed.
It's about 80% furniture that did belong to the family. The bed actually comes from the house where she grew up, called Ashburn. However, that is Holler Nut's desk. That is chair.
All right, what's the next one that we have?
All right. We know where some of it is, though. Some of it's at the Asa Packer house.
What room are we in here?
This room, well, the plans that we do have call it the hall. We rather unimaginatively call it the stair hall because it contains the one finished staircase in this house. It runs from the basement where we are now to the unfinished floors above. And this was probably used as a family room when the Nutts lived here, but later it does become the bedroom for the third daughter when she lives in this house. And of course she's named after her mother, who was also named Julia.
Has there ever been plans to maybe finish some of this, or?
No, Longwood must remain the way it is.
I didn't know if there was.
And the reason Longwood needs to stay, that comment, why is that? They can't, historical reasons?
Historical reasons, one, and we have no idea what the upper floors would have looked like.
Oh, okay.
The plans have been lost. We have a copy of a set of floor plans, but that's it. There are no elevations, no profiles.
So why did you think they built so many stories up like that?
Why they added a floor? I don't know. It's what makes the house stand out, obviously. As Sloan said, the shape of the dome is a pure fancy. He just wanted to bring up the image of the Middle East. Sloan never was really sure what style to call this house. It was sort of Moorish, Byzantine, Italianate.
It sounded like they had a lot of money, and they had a lot of money to do what they like
Oh,
the
yes.
style they wanted, and
Oh,
you
yes.
know they had like they were very well off, and
That's it.
and it's kind of like a statement saying like kind of I built
One of a kind.
One of a kind house, yeah. But then again, that's the Natchez architecture. By the 1840s, 1850s, all these people had lots of money, and they were trying to show off. And each house would be bigger and grander. I said, this is the biggest, grandest house in Natchez. And I always add, until the next one would have been built. But it is certainly the most unique. It is the largest house in Natchez by a good ways.
And all the pictures on the wall of all the people, is that guests or is that family members?
Most of them are family.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah.
The large landscape portraits, we think, well, they're Italian, we know. I suspect they were brought back by the eldest daughter, Carolyn Ruth Nutt, when she went on the grand tour of Italy in 1859. Because we have 3 landscapes by an Italian artist.
So they used it, so you said this was supposed to like a summer home, so they used this home kind of like periodically throughout the year, so they would do a lot of traveling throughout the year. And
Right.
come home and you know, stay here during the summertime and stuff.
Right, well, it was a common practice for the planters of that era to go north during the summer. It's hot down here, obviously.
Oh,
And they would go to New York and they'd go cruise along the Hudson River. We know
Wow.
that the Nuts did that.
Did they own boats? Did they own like anything like that? How did they travel?
Rail and steamship.
Okay.
Uh,
Like Titanic steamship kind of?
Well, obviously that's a bit more advanced, but yeah, they
Yeah.
could either go a coastal steamer or they would take a riverboat up
So we're
river.
talking like pre-Titanic.
Oh, much freer. I mean, this Titanic's
Okay.
built in 1911. This house is built in 1860.
Oh, okay. Because I mean, you always wondered like how would they get to Italy, and when you said
Steamships, yeah, the earlier steamships.
and they were kind of like luxury cruise lines, kind of. Well, as of
Well.
the day, or
I didn't know how luxurious they were. Charles
Yeah.
Dickens was quite descriptive about his trip across the Atlantic. I thought it was terrible, basically.
wow. Okay. Exactly. When you said they went to Italy, it kind of like like wow, like 1860. How did they travel? Because I mean, it's not like yeah.
It's still an improvement over 1760 when it would have been by sail. It would take 3 months.
Oh wow.
Or it could take 3 months. Going by steamship would take about a week.
That's interesting.
So it's a
So
little bit
they
of a-
found a way.
Yeah.
They found a way.
What will be the next room?
We usually go into the children's playroom.
This is where we were earlier.
So you said this was the children's room.
Right.
Now how did they sleep 4 people in here? 4 daughters?
Well,
Let's
Not
see
really
one
sure.
bed.
It's pretty good size, though.
Yeah.
they would have had more beds in here.
Okay, so it wouldn't have looked like this.
Probably would not have been arranged in this manner now.
So the thing I want to ask you is, like, say if they came back, say if the family came back, the Hollis family came back, would they recognize everything in the house, or they would be like, oh my God, our house is just like totally redone?
Probably a little of both,
Yeah.
because some of these pieces, belong to the family.
That's what. Yeah. So it's good, like trigger objects to, because
That's, if you look over, if you add that over there, we have Hollernut's gout chair. He was never a healthy man during his life, and he began to suffer from gout when he was in his 20s even. And that's what they used in the 19th century, because there's no medication for gout then. Think of it as an
That's tough.
1840s recliner.
yeah,
some
I mean,
tough
gout,
stuff.
I mean, nowadays they have medicine for gout, but now they tell you just put Crisco all over your leg and wrap it with saran wrap.
Never heard that.
I've never heard that one either.
No, and I've had gout, and I wanted more than Crisco, man.
Well, yeah. So I don't know.
Well, they did, bandage, your feet would be wrapped and you would elevate your feet, and that was about the best you could do. It's still very painful. And of course, a lot of
Yes.
people would tend to drink to alleviate the suffering, and that's just the wrong thing to do. It makes it worse,
Yeah.
if nothing else.
All right,
So when you say he was a drinker,
We don't know if he drank.
yeah.
He was always very thin and had a very delicate constitution. It's amazing that Hollernut got done, all that he got done.
So how many actual kids that he had?
He had all together 11.
11. Wow. And they all stayed here, huh? Well, most of them.
Well, 2 of them definitely died before this house was completed. The daughter, Fanny, dies in 1848. She's about 2 years old. The son, Austin, is accidentally shot by his cousin
Oh wow.
in 1860, and Julia never gets over this. And she keeps his clothes in her closet, and they are found by the 3rd son, Prentice Nutt, when he's settling her estate in 1897. And of course, the final child born was Rushworth. He was born in July 1863. He lived for 2 days. He definitely died in this house.
so has there been sounds of children crying or babies crying, or?
I've never heard them, and no one has ever reported them.
Well, earlier we got through, I think it was SB7 or the other ITC device we're using, we got a hey, and it sounded like a children, like saying hey.
A child?
Oh yeah. I think Caitlin actually heard it too, so it was like kind of, so when we replay it, guarantee it sounds like a kid.
And
So
you got a 4-letter word too.
Yeah, you did get that as well.
loud person, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Seems like we get that everywhere, so that's not necessarily.
And this room is supposed to be one of the more interesting rooms in the home.
Yes, that's it's the central rotunda. It was going to actually be the wine cellar of the house.
Let's take a look. So this is the floor plan.
This is the floor plan of the basement. Really, the floors above us pretty much would have repeated this plan. But this gives you a quick rundown of how these rooms were going to be used. And the billiard room, you can see the hall, that direction becomes the family dining room. It was going to be the butler's pantry, basically. That was
This
it.
the gift shop here?
No, this is the gift shop here. This one is
Oh, okay.
not labeled. What's the schoolroom is now was labeled our schoolroom, is now our break room.
Okay.
And that's, they use that room for storage. But the room where we're in now, the rotunda in the center, this octagonal room, this was going to be the wine cellar. The floors of this level of the house were all going to be made of slate. And you can see that there are 4 closets. That's going to be where the wine was stored.
So when you say a wine cellar, this was supposed to, like you said, it's supposed to be the basement, so they're supposed to live upstairs?
Right, they were going to live the floors above us, yes.
Oh, wow.
This
okay.
floor was only going to be for like work and storage space. They were never intending to live down.
Oh, okay. I thought this was like a living quarters and all. Like,
It became a living quarters, but that was not what was intended.
oh, I see.
The main living quarters been on the second floor, basically. It'd be cooler up there for one, fewer mosquitoes. But yeah, they were going to have wine in this room, and they would have had, plenty of storage space for more wine or bourbon, brandy, whiskey, whatever else you need to live in Natchez in 1860. And of course, we have a problem with this house. All the plans that we have don't match what's built.
Yeah, that would be a problem.
So we know we never had a copy of the final plans that survived.
I wonder if it was more of a just let's build it as we go kind of deal. Maybe that's why the plans are not so.
Well, you can't, this building is fairly complex.
Very complex. Yeah.
It's really not amenable to making changes on the fly.
Oh, okay.
Remember, it is 4 stories of brick walls.
Wow.
You just can't change those willy-nilly. You have to just sort of put them where they're going to be and they stay there. Now, but that was the problem. The nuts kept changing the details. And of course, because of that, the house was never finished.
So it's not like trying to decorate the house, make it even more, and they just never finish.
Yeah, the whole western side of it is the part that has the most problems because we have no idea what they were trying to do there. It's completely different from the other 3 sides.
When you see the western side, you stand like smoking room and.
Actually, that would be on this chart. It would be the playroom, but it's more the floors.
Okay, so the room we just got out of.
Right.
Okay.
That's on the playroom is on the western side of the house, but it's more the room above the playroom and the room above that.
It sounded like they had issues on the second floor when they started going up higher. It sounded like they had a little issues.
They had a few. They decided to move the staircase from one side of the room to the other.
Oh wow, that's a big change.
Yeah, it was. And then they still might have finished the house after they did that, but then they changed the plans again. And a lot of the things we have on the plans, can see how this shows this staircase. That's on the the porch out back. That would have been a servant staircase. The only problem is, if you look at the bottom of the porch above us, there's no place to put a staircase.
Oh wow.
So, it's one of those weird things about this house that we've not yet figured out.
Interesting.
There's a door right here, there are none of these walls, so, it gets confusing.
And this was the original plans? Or this was like the upgraded plans?
This, as far as we know, is this is based on Sloan published floor plans. In his book, Homestead Architect from 1861, he devotes the first chapter to this house.
Oh, okay.
And that does tell us a lot about what we know about it.
Wow, so he was the author, did cotton, so he was.
Well, no, that was, Samuel Sloan was the architect who designed Longwood. Holler Nut was more of a gentleman planter scientist.
Oh, okay, scientist, okay.
Did you say he designed some other buildings?
Samuel Sloan? Samuel Sloan designed, well, we don't really know since his papers were destroyed, exactly how many buildings Samuel Sloan built. We have a list of around 200. But
Wow.
he's most famous for doing insane asylums.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
There's an old joke among architectural historians. Samuel Sloan designed 32 mental institutions and 1 nut house. That's where we are.
He might have had his hands in the Ohio State Reformatory.
I'll have to look.
Because you know why I say that? Because you think about it, guys. Look at the brickwork outside. And you know how it's like they got that medieval kind of, not medieval, but that look, that style. It's kind of like, you know, all the buildings we go to look kind of similar. You know, like I don't know if it's from French architecture or is it more of a, I don't know, but.
Without actually seeing it, I couldn't tell you.
I just don't know. Something more
You have
like.
to look on the history of the actual Ohio State Reformatory and all.
Yeah, because I mean, 32 insane asylums. I mean, there's not. That probably covers the whole.
Most of
body.
the United States by that point.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what I was getting at.
The closest one to us now is actually in Tuscaloosa.
Wow.
Bryce?
Kirkbride did a lot of
Sloan?
insane asylums too.
Sloan with Kirkbride.
Yeah, was he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kirkbride came up with the idea, and Sloan actually did the buildings.
So they knew each other.
Yes, they worked together.
It's weird how a connection.
Uh-huh.
We've been to West Virginia.
Yeah.
Sloan's are all built on, all of his insane asylums are built on the Kirkbride system, so they work together.
What kind of system was that?
It was the Kirkbride system. He came up with the philosophy for designing a mental institution.
So basically, these guys were innovators. These guys were like, you know, at the top of their game as far as architecture and the field. And
Yes, Sloan was definitely an innovator. This house has many unusual features. I don't know if you can see them from here, but right over my head is a skylight. Now we're in the basement. And the way that was supposed to work was mirrors would have been placed around the upper level. They would have reflected light down onto the floor of the rotunda above us. The light would have passed through glass panels, providing natural light for this basement room. This house would have had indoor plumbing, hot and cold running water, although they only had 1 bathroom. So they're still working some things out, obviously. It would have had its own gas plant, a dumbwaiter. The shutters for the windows open into the walls. So, yeah. The entire house is designed to be cool in the summer, which is why the central rotunda runs from the primary floor up to the top of the cupola.
did this house ever have any damage from hurricanes or anything like that?
We know that the original spire fell off in around 1915.
And you talk about the big thing on top?
Yeah, yeah.
It fell off.
Well, the original one fell off. It's
Oh, wow.
stored upstairs.
Oh.
The one you see now is a copy.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's some pictures on the second floor of the whole, bringing the other one in.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Yeah,
they took
actually got
the.
some pictures of the original one up there.
Oh, okay.
We actually have the original one up there too. They took the original one, they made molds from it, and they cast a new one out of fiberglass. The original one cost $250. The replacement cost $50,000. And again, inflation.
Amazing. Okay.
Well, we want to thank you for inviting Southern Paranormal to be part of your fall pilgrimage and the garden club. And
Next year.
of course, Longwood. Yes, we'd love to. That's what I was just fixing to ask. Yeah.
We still have the slave quarters building to poke into.
Yes. We got a few more rooms here too. A few more levels.
We
And
actually got a few more floors.
the slave quarters was over here?
Right, that's the large building. It's still standing. It's probably was built between 1830 and 1840. And that was part of the original Longwood house that had been built here in the 1820s. But then in 1857, the Nuts knew they were going to be building this house. They knew they would need a place to stay in Natchez, so they remodeled the slave quarters building so they could stay in it while this house was being constructed. They, of course, tore down the earlier house that was built here in the 1820s. It stood right where this house stands. We really don't know what it looked like.
I'll be down. I ain't heard anything about that. But
Interesting.
yeah, we'd love to come back if you know. Yes, we've had a blast meeting all
This was
the
fun.
Yeah.
other people and everything. It's a learning experience for both of us, you
Yes.
know.
A lot of history, that's what I like about it. A lot of
So-
history involved, and a lot of you know, a lot of interesting stuff that we didn't even scratch the surface, really, you know.
No, I haven't even scratched the surface. I've been
Right.
studying this house for 2 years.
All right.
Well, we thank you much.
Thank you
And
for
we
coming.
look forward to coming back.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.